Hi guys, welcome to the very new series with myself, Juliette Stapleton, and Annita Keane. We are bringing you the Lighthouse Projector Series, a new series of conversations where we want to tap into some of the terminology, some of the really important trigger points that we see in the world of human design, manifestation, marketing, money making, and just being, just showing up and being visible to the world with a purpose of helping other people transform their lives. If you enjoy these conversations, you are very, very welcome to follow either of us. You can follow me at juliettestapleton.com and anitakeane.com for Annita Keane. Welcome to the series, and I hope you enjoy the conversations. One of the things that I am fascinated in the world of human design, and this is, I think, is the biggest stopper blocker of progress, not just in marketing but generally in life. This is also a reason why I exited all projector groups on Facebook that are focused on human design, because of the amount of bitterness. And of course the topic is waiting, and it's not just for the projectors, right? We have to wait to respond if we're a generator type. That's 70% of the population. We have to wait for emotional clarity. That's half of the world, right? We have to wait. Even manifestors need to wait for that creative spark, even if they're splenic, right? You have to wait for the knowing that this is the right thing to do for you. There's waiting all the time. If you're a reflector, you have to wait for the lunar cycle to make things clear, right? If you're a mental projector, wait and let time bring the clarity. It's all this waiting and waiting and waiting. But the biggest problem with the waiting, how we traditionally are used to think about it or thinking about it, is the waiting room. We're sitting and we're waiting, wait to respond, wait for the sign from the universe. Sometimes I'm talking about, say, sacral response with the generators, and it's a problem with the words we're using, because, if I say you're waiting for this nod from the universe, and they really think that it's the waiting period. So you just sit there and you wait for some sort of lightning bolt and this groundbreaking just will happen. But if we're waiting for something groundbreaking all the time, like, how often does it really happen in life? Really, honestly, it's not because you're not getting the signs. It's because you're expecting something much, much bigger than what actually is presented to you all the time. Right? So I think that one of the things today that we want to talk about is this whole concept of waiting. But it wasn't my idea to talk about this. It was actually Annita. Annita, please, maybe you can remind us what really triggered you with the waiting a couple of weeks ago before we started discussing this series.
Oh my goodness. I've been working with clients and learning human design myself, and taking the classes and doing all that, and being told, well, as a projector, ye are the next, we're a leader, but you need to wait to be invited. You need to wait, before you're allowed to do anything. You can't initiate. As a generator, you have to respond. And I was there, this is BS, to be quite honest. It completely annoys me, because what I'm noticing with people is they're using it as an excuse to do nothing. They're using it as an excuse. If you look at the actual definition of waiting in the dictionary, it's the action of staying where one is or delaying action until a particular time or event. And so if we are the orchestrators, if we are the creators, as we're told by religion, as we're told by our coaching gurus, by spiritual gurus, well, then we need to show up, and the universe will wait until we say what we want. So we're sitting there, as you said, we're sitting waiting for the sign, and the universe is at the other side going, well, what do you want to sign for? What do you want to sign? What do you want? If we say we want happiness, the universe might bring us a bunny rabbit or a puppy or something. But that's not really what we wanted as happy. You know what I'm saying? That's not really what we wanted. And we're kind of outsourcing what's an inner job. Yes. There's a difference between waiting and timing. And that's where we key into our universal connection and our manifesting connection, because there's a difference between waiting and knowing your timing.
I love this, because, at the end of the day, we're actually discussing sort of the language issues, the semantics, the what things actually mean. And this is the biggest problem in the world, because people are using the words, but they what it means in a true sense, in really in a way that is empowering, is slightly different. And you have to find, I believe, your own meaning for anything that you are learning, reading. The problem with human design specifically, and especially these days in 2023, is it's getting popularized. That means that there is a lot of very surface level information and language is simplified, and language is, instead of going deeper and really nailing what it means to, for example, wait for invitation for a projector, or wait to respond for a generator type. What is this waiting for emotional clarity? You have to understand what emotional clarity is. You have to understand what this waiting process is, and you really need to dig deeper. But what we are exposed to is a very surface level interpretation of what these things are. And therefore there's more confusion, more noise, more frustration, more bitterness, more anger, right? And disappointment is added into the world, and for me personally, and I think that this is exactly what you were saying. It's not that when somebody says you have to wait for an invitation, that this is a BS as a statement. No, the BS is when you think that you need to then sit and wait and do nothing.
Exactly. Great distinction. Great.
So we really are talking about the process of waiting or delaying the taking action. But what do you do while you delay taking action is really important to understand. That when you are waiting for something, right, that something is one type of action. But while you're waiting, what are you doing? So let's say you come to a dentist and you're sitting there literally waiting in the waiting room. Do you think you're just doing nothing? You're sitting waiting? No, maybe you're looking at the wall. You might be reading brochures. You might be on your phone. You might be, I don't know, calling somebody and chatting to someone, getting your affairs in order. You're actually actively waiting while you're waiting. You did not cease to exist. You did not, yes, you have to be called, and the timing of that is out of your control. But you're still, what's in your control is what you're going to do with your senses, with your eyes, with your attention, with your focus, right? We don't think about it that way. We just think like, oh, I have to sit there and wait. And we don't notice what's happening meanwhile. And I think that what we want to talk about today is this whole idea of the active waiting and how to approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the waiting, I think what people don't understand is it's connected with our authority, with our decision strategy. When we're connected to our inner yes, we're actually that extension. It's the indicator that tells us we're connected to the universal energy, that universal manifesting energy. So when you know that, what happens is you can stop the anxiety and it's not there yet, and this driving, when you can trust that inner connection and inner timing, if that makes sense. So as you said, when I set my intention to do something, very often it's when I walk away from it, I stay connected and saying, I put out to the universe, oh, I wonder what needs to happen for me to achieve this. And I let the universe do its thing. I stay balanced and centered so that I'm open to pick up the cues, and then I go and play a game of golf. I do something completely different, so that I'm allowing my mental hands to step back. I'm allowing my grabbing for needing it to happen to step back, and I'm allowing the co-creative process to actually take place. So as you said, when you're in the dentist, you're still doing things. When you put out, my biggest thing here, and this is the point I'm trying to make, is that a lot of people are waiting and they're not sure what they want. They're waiting from the perspective of the mind. Okay. So when we're waiting for the perspective of the mind, we're looking for something that we recognize to happen. However, what we've asked for is probably something we've never done before. So waiting with the mind distracts the body from being present to the signals that we're actually waiting for. Does
Oh
that
my
make
God, you just hit the nail on the head as well with two things. One is, yeah, sometimes you're making you're making an intention. For example, in business and marketing, we're like, oh, I'd love to have like a six-figure business. You have never made six figures in the business. You might have been in a job that you earned that, and that's completely different world, and it doesn't count in this case, right? But you haven't done this, so you have no experience. You literally don't know what you want.
Mm.
And it's very important to understand this with the waiting and with the clarity on what exactly you're waiting for, what exactly you want for, that you actually also make some sort of you take action meanwhile while you're waiting for that to happen, in order to bring to the table for that moment when that's possible to happen everything you need to to receive this. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And that's where people get stuck. They kind of they know what 100,000 looks like and what it'll do for them, but they're waiting here. It's not there yet. Oh my God, what am I going to do? But in human design, you can really get you really genuinely get a map of how you're designed to wait, how you're designed to process that energy. So that, like, if you have an open head and ajna, if you're trying to be certain, you're off, you're closed to guidance. If you're trying to solve other people's problems with the open head, you're not available. If you're always striving, never arriving, you're trying to prove. You're not in the space of receptivity. And the universe is kind of pushing us into this space for the last 4 years since COVID. The different ways that the planets are interacting together are saying, hang on a second, we need to do a giant review here. Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, and our whole business system, our whole political system, our education system, all the systems that have supported us are under review, as is our system as entrepreneurs. They say 80% of entrepreneurs actually don't succeed.
It's
And
true. Any
I
business, yeah. It's so
isn't
true.
right. But I think I'm trying to uphold an ideal as opposed to what's real for me.
Mm.
And I'm waiting for this ideal to be achieved. So that puts me into a state of, oh my God, it's not happening yet. Is there something wrong with me?
That's it.
That's a waiting room where, oh no, there's something wrong with me. I'm not enough. It's not happening yet. That's a waiting room. And when you know your design and know how to shift that, it's a game changer. This is the beauty of human design. So when I say it's my bugaboo, when they talk about initiating and waiting, it's also the answer, or certainly the map that we can use to shift our waiting into passive action. Is that a term?
It's not a term, but it is now. We
Yeah,
we can make it a
yeah.
term, it's okay.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love it. Yes, this is what active waiting is about. Because for in order for something, and I just exactly what I said before, in order for something to happen, you also need to be ready for it. And how do you, even if you haven't experienced that, but what can you bring to the table for that to be a likely outcome of it? And that's how you're thinking. So when you are, and this is another thing as well. While we're talking about waiting, there's also this initiation where you're so afraid to initiate. You're so afraid to do anything then, because, oh my God, in human design, I need to wait for invitations. So I'm just going to sit here and do nothing and wait until it comes, but that doesn't work. You have to initiate something in order for something bigger to happen. And I think that the biggest distinction that's not made enough, it was made by it was made in the original interpretation about initiation, about waiting, is that waiting for each type, you have to know what you're waiting for. Invitations, you have to know where are you waiting for invitations and where you can do things. You don't need to be invited into studying, researching, doing things the way you want. You don't need to be invited into any of that, but you need to be invited into proper, correct relationships, into a place to live, maybe, into anything that is significant, potential, I think, long-term potential. And definitely, if you're a projector, into giving advice.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
Yeah, because this is simple interaction of auras, right? You have this real sharp cone-shaped aura. If you're not invited, if a person is not open and you're trying to pierce them with this aura, I was called, when this aura, I was actually called a snow piercer yesterday because of a person, the person who is very open to my guidance called me that.
Yeah.
And that made me think, snow piercer. So even when they're open, they still feel like I'm in and I see, right? Imagine when you're not open. Of course, you need to be invited. Does it apply to, for example, creating content for your business or, or sharing what you see or whatever your brand voice is to the masses? No, because you're not piercing their auras individually. It's not that they didn't ask you for advice. This is a separate domain. This is your act of waiting. This is where you can, make them feel like they want to open up and have more of this guidance, right? So understanding that this whole thing about waiting, it's actually about auric interaction to start with. So there are situations where this really is important, really, really important, like giving advice, right? Like interacting with another person, entering relationships, very important. And then there's other situations where it's just like, it doesn't apply.
Yeah.
And it's already making it easier. So this is something we need to raise awareness of more, is that what is this whole thing about waiting for something means for you and why you need to do that. But people don't think about why, right? They don't think deeper. They just go surface level and panic and drop everything and don't do anything.
But this is the first time I've thought about this, and you've brought up a superb point of the energy of it. Because I did science up to master's level. I did physics up to master's level. And the actual physical interaction of those energies, when there's invitation and when there isn't. For the projector, as you say, we have that pointy and we get to the core of people's love and direction. But, when that's not invited, it feels like a needle. It hurts. Or it comes across as criticism or interference. But the opposite it's also true of generators and manifesting generators. They kind of want to help you and rescue you. And it feels overwhelming when it's not invited. Or people kind of go, ew, I didn't ask you to stop trying to rescue me,
But like that's also a confusion in the existential question, right? I love this topic. This is my favorite topic, because when you understand what your existential question is as an energy type, then that doesn't happen. The generator types, and most of them, when they're conditioned, they really want to hug you and save you and do something for you. And that causes so much frustration. My God, your existential question here is, who am I? You need to focus within. It is not that you're dropping people and you're not of service or you're not helping. You're helping by being whole. That's how you are. That's how you are very, that's how your light is going on. This is a Lighthouse series, right? This is how you turn your light on. You really understand that in everything you do, the question is, who am I? Who am I in these relationships? Am I the rock? Let me be the rock. I don't need to go and grab and solve your problems and everything. Let it be about me, and I will give you the energy of the stoic, safe, whatever rock energy you're looking for. Or if you are a projector, you will not know about yourself. You can't ask yourself, who am I? We always want. We don't know ourselves. We always wonder, right? But that's where the confusion happens. But when you say, who am I in relation to this person individually? Who am I in relation to Annita, when I'm interacting with her? Who am I in relation to my child, to my, a man in my life? And this is where you start learning about yourself. And that, again, stops you being desperate. You understand why you need sometimes to wait a little bit until they're open before you give the advice. And also, they might be open in this area and you gave advice, but there's also this area that's very messy. You have to wait until they're open to that area as well, because it's hard we are real sharp people. So, but anyway, the interaction and the existential questions, the manifestors, they're like, closed aura, repelling aura. Of course, you have to have a repelling aura because you're making an impact. That's what your existential question is. You're making an impact, right? You cannot make an impact if you had this soft porous aura or like this. You really need to have this shield around you. And when you see that, when you visualize that, things change. You start getting a deeper understanding of why you're doing certain things, where you can initiate, where you can do things, and where you need to step back and allow the timing. But yeah, I loved it how you said generators want to save it. Every generator I'm dealing with who are
Yeah.
not aware of their design and not trying to live in and I'm not, this is not a dogma. You don't have to live your human design experience. Please don't if you don't want to, right? This is not what we're saying. This is not a religion. This is a choice. It's a personal choice. I choose to do it. You choose to do it, but if you try and do it, it's so interesting when you understand these key elements that we're trying to highlight here.
Absolutely, because when you are with someone in the room, as projectors, we can read the room really well. So I can just be walking through my husband's office and I can read what's going on in the room energetically. But the beauty, what you described a superb point. As a projector, we do what's the word? It's like an injection into the other person's energy. And the injection is usually an energy that helps them just spin into their prosperous flow. For you, it's helped me spin into that idea that's going to magnetize new clients, or that helps me express my message clearly. But when you realize that as whatever type you are, what your role is energetically, how you input, so we don't even have to open our mouths. We can just sit there and, as you said, be whole, be grounded and centered and in our own space, happy in our own space, and we influence the room. It's like a tuning fork. They start to tune into their balance.
Yes.
It's really cool when you know that, and when you learn, it's a practice to trust that in yourself. You stop needing to fix. You stop needing to, step in. You stop needing the acknowledgement, because you are
That's true.
acknowledging.
Even with, it's very difficult. Let's just have a disclaimer. Like, just
Okay.
because we're two projectors here, this is a projector series, projectors sharing what we see.
Mhm.
Even though we see this and we know this, it doesn't mean that we do it all the time. This is very normal. It's called transference in human design. It's very normal that you live between the conditioning and the alignment, because we're conditioned all the time. Every day there's a transit, there's people, in your aura. We're conditioned all the time. So it's not like we ourselves don't deal with these things. It's not like we ourselves all like never sit and wait. But the difference when you are applying your human design understanding and awareness to it is that you're starting to move through life more consciously. So the amount of times when you are giving your power away, and really, what if you had to underpin what we're trying to say to you today, guys, it's like you're giving your power away when you are waiting at a surface, like as a face value, sit, wait, do nothing, right? And the idea for any type, energy type, no matter what you're here to do, even if you're here to guide others like us or impact others like manifestors, right? It's still all about you being whole and taking the power back to you. And that was probably the biggest aha moment for me, especially this year, which has been in my personal life a very, very turbulent year. And I am noticing that every time, even though I'm here to learn what am I in relation to the other as a projector, it's only when I move back from that. Because, we projectors enter, you said an injection. It's very interesting. If you imagine a syringe, and then there's this liquid, and it goes through the needle into another body, right? Into completely different entity. And then it doesn't stop there. The injection is that liquid goes around and spreads and then mixes with blood. And that's what happens with projectors. I posted recently a song from Depeche Mode that says, "It's only when I lose myself in someone else, then I find myself." This is such projector experience. By the way, Dave Gann is a projector.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that blew my mind, and he was living these songs so much, it caused him to get addicted to heroin, because we do that, because we do lose ourselves momentarily to then come back. But in my lived experience, it's when you come back and when you take the power back, you stop grabbing on, you stop focusing on the outside, you focus on within, and you find that wholeness within. That's when this experience completes in a way. That's when you learn from the eyes of the other. These are the phrases from the human design, traditional human design, projectors learn from the other eyes of the other. It's still coming back to you. So we're not a generator type where the existential question is about us, and yet it is still all about us learning who we are, because this is what our karmic experience is, right? For every line, it is to learn who you are in relation to others or not.
Exactly. That's such a brilliant point. And we do need that time to integrate. But in the past, or we've learned to, well, what's that person's opinion of me? Will they still love me if I'm myself? Will I get the grade? Will I make the money? Will the clients pick me? We've lived our world out there. So what you've described here is a really juicy distinction between, while I am immersed in the other and I learn from the other, it's with respect to where I am. It's with respect to knowing my own balance, knowing that, oh, hang on, I'm out of balance now. I've moved from the point of they're open to taking advice to enough advice.
Yes.
When I have to say, and it's understanding my inner barometer tells me that. I don't have to wait until someone tells me to piss off.
Yes, exactly.
But I'll feel the resistance in my own body and say, okay, enough.
You know where to go and where not to go. Trusting your body, trusting your authority. Yes, maybe you're an emotional authority person, then understanding it's your goal. If you're into human design, if you feel like human design is something that explains things to you that help you move, so you're not just caught up in learning about it because it's so also interesting, right? But you're actually integrating. This is the most important thing about human design. You don't need to learn unless you're integrating it. So with the integration, then and say emotional clarity, it's up to you to do any research you require to really deeply understand what this emotional wave is, what is the nervousness that comes with being emotionally defined. Understand this. Explore it within you, because everybody's slightly different, right? So you might be, explore it, watch it over time, then learn to make your decisions. If you're a projector, for example, and you're an emotional defined projector, I just realized that I started talking about it, so you correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm splenic. I have completely open emotional center, but this is what I understand. You learn about your emotional waves, then you know as a projector when to stop back, but also you are aware of that emotional wave at the same time as well. So you're kind of looking for neutrality, as well in decision, whether it's a complete no, whether you should even if it feels right to give an advice, but you feel like you're low now, so maybe not a good timing. It's all about the timing. And it sounds very complicated when you try and put it all into its kind of box. But it is actually a very smooth and almost momentary process, because you are so aware of it that you just, recognize that within you. What's your experience with that?
That's a really good point. I think integration happens through practice. Now, I'm a 5-1 projector, right? So I'll research the information, but unless I can apply it, forget it. Like, it gets the trash, right? And to me, application is, and action is how we realize our design, how we realize our potential. The whole point of the integration that people don't realize is that we live in a stress-driven society, so everything is absolute. It's either or. Is
Yes.
it this or that? Are you right or wrong? And I get that there's genuinely black and white, but life is gray. I'm sorry, there's no other way to describe it. And when you're in that, it is both and. It's realizing there's a natural cycle. It's like the ebbing tide. The tide goes in, the tide comes out. It's like, this is my time of integration. This is my time of action. This is my time of recovery. And it's like the breath. When I breathe in, I'm taking in the oxygen. When I breathe out carbon dioxide. So it's a natural cycle. And what happens is we judge it. Oh, I'm waiting, I'm doing nothing, I feel guilty, I'm, oh my God, I should be doing something. As opposed to the other side, which is in balance, going with the flow really is that. Going with the flow is understanding your inner parameters, your outer parameters, reading the room, and then choosing the action that you want to take. So to me, the crux of it is when you feel you're in the waiting room, as projectors, our superpower is to ask questions. So ask the question about, is there something I need to do here to take action? But you're asking your inner authority the question, not your mind,
Yes,
nothing
that's it.
else. Because that inner yes is what gives you the indicator to say, oh, yeah, this is in flow. Is it time to take action now or not? Or
And
is
you
that
feel it within. It's not that you're guessing. It's really one more thing. If I may, just because you made a really important point there, and I just want to stress this because you said, the mind says, "Oh, what's wrong with me? Things are not happening." Again, I'm not waiting. As a projector, there's a guy I found on a guy. There is a human design expert that I found on Instagram called Travis Day. I want to bring him to one of my podcasts. And he said once, projector is a diagnosis. I saw it months ago, and I had to let it sink before I even talked to him, because my life is a diagnosis for most people's standards, right? There's a lot of still periods in my life, and I had to learn one big thing is that you can still be in balance, you can still trust your journey, but your mind doesn't stop. So it's okay to sometimes feel this and say it to yourself. It's okay. I say to myself almost every day, oh, I'm not doing enough. But what helps me is that I don't listen to my monkey brain. It talks, it constantly says all these things. You're not doing enough, you're not making enough money, why you're like today again, you didn't do anything, and all this chatter. And yet I acknowledge it. Sometimes it's right, even. There are days when it's right. But most of the time it isn't, because my body says differently. My body says, no, you need to be still today. No, you need to step back today. And it doesn't make any sense. It would not make a sense to a generator type person how I live. And it doesn't. So I try not to explain it. But the truth is that that's what's working for me. When I look back at the evidence in my business, in my life, taking time off, actually doing nothing sometimes, actually not listening to my brain that you're not doing anything, so I start running around like a headless chicken trying to do something. No, I ask myself, is there anything I need to do? Just like you described, I do ask myself if there's anything I need to do, but I'm very discerning about, is it going to be donkey work that's not effective or efficient, or is it something that I could really do and it will make a big impact? This recording today is one of the examples, because I was all over the place today, all day. And I knew deep down that this is one thing I should do. I will enjoy it. It will create an impact. It will allow both of us to share really important things that people out there need to hear. And I knew that. And that's how the advice is, just like there is awareness of what's right for you. That's your authority. For me, it's a spleen, that's your authority. But the monkey brain is always there. So you have to live with it. It's not about shutting it down. It's never going to shut down. It's going to win if you try. So don't fight it, but don't listen to it.
That is so brilliant, because what's happening, especially with the young people at the moment, they're believing what they think. They're believing what people are saying to be true. They're believing, well, I feel this way, it must be true. And I, as you said, no, it's not true. You can notice it and pay attention to it, but it's only if it resonates with you, as in connects with your authority, brings you that you need to know anything about it. It's the only when that information actually triggers you that you need to start asking the question, well, what is this? Is this something I need to heal? Is this something I need to fix? And this is what I love about human design. It really gives you an indicator. And I do this with my clients. Positive thinking, success mindset is so much more than positive thinking.
Oh,
Success
yes.
mindset is about, as you say, how am I designed to think? I have a defined head, Annita, as well. I never stop thinking. I wake up this way and think, oh my God, you will never believe what's just come to me now. And it's just fun to have a defined head, Annita. But for the open head, Annita, that would do their head in.
Yeah,
To
oh,
have
yes.
that level of thinking going on. So recognizing that these thoughts are only true for me if they resonate with me. And it's to, you said it, they're not all true. It's not all real for me. And I don't have to believe it. I don't have to
Actually,
be.
it's what you just said. It's really important to have a distinction. Even if you have an open head and ajna, or just open head, you are in the presence of people with defined heads and ajnas, right? You have to be discerning. So when we're talking about what resonates, the word resonates, I would like to decode this word for you guys. It means that your authority says yes to it. That's what resonating. It's not that like, oh, that's like, it feels good, could be nice, all these kind of things. No, you feel it. If you have a body authority, you will feel it in your body. If it's an outer authority but it got stuck, talk about it with people, talk at people about it, right? You will feel it over time. So whatever your authority, master the process of making decisions on anything that gets stuck. And yes, some of those like inspirations, ideas, we meet people like myself and Annita, we could be broadcasting these. Not all of them are for you, but there will be something that might be for you. So your authority always says yes. And that's what I love about human design. It's not about saying that, people with definition are always buzzing and thinking and it's not that really. It's just about the fact that the thought process is also not negative. Sometimes we're talking about conditioning, and the conditioning comes from the mind. The mind gets hooked up on conditioning. The mind itself, no matter how loud and chatty and all that, it's also a useful operating system for you to make sense of the world, to make your own systems, your own concepts, to research. It's a really useful thing we have. So we need to use it, but we need to see it for what it is. It's just there to research and evaluate and, all that, but then it doesn't make decisions, right? And it's a process to understand this. It's a process to really understand it.
And that's the difference. That's Pluto and Capricorn. The mind has been running the world for the last how many 100 years, whereas the mind is here to serve the authority, to serve that inner decision-making process, not to dominate it. So there's a play, as you said, it's both and, it's not either or. And there's another distinction I want to make here, because I am emotionally defined, is when something feels right. I'm not talking about emotion. I'm talking about that inner, the yes. The best way to describe yes is your body feels expanded, it feels open. Some people actually get a tingling in their body, or in that area where it's a tangible sense in your body. Like taste is a sense, like, touch is a sense, it's tangible. And when you get that, you stop writing on your emotions, you stop holding it on your sleeve, the need, it's really amazing. But it's important to know that emotional energy, whether I'm sad or whether I'm fearful or angry or excited, it's an energy telling me, okay, yes, it's really exciting. I need to ground in, I need to integrate this before I make the decision, because I've jumped into too many things before and been in there for a week or two and gone, why did I agree to this again?
But you see, this is it. Usually people, all of us, we are the same. We all want a black and white answer, just like you said. But life is, 50,000 shades of gray. So we can't get a yes or no answer. What we can is we can create a skill. We can develop a skill through experimenting with awareness of, for example, if you're an emotionally defined person, of learning what your waves are, how they feel, what they're like. Because then when you are watching them over time, and nobody can come to you and say, this is how it feels. You have to yourself experience how it feels within you and your body. People are different, and they experience things slightly differently. So find your own thing. That's why the research, that's where you include the mind, right? That's where you study, for example, human design, just to learn that. You don't need to know everything about it. You don't need to know what every gate means and all that. It's juicy, but it's irrelevant, But when you know what's happening with your body, that makes a huge difference, because then you can discern, is this excitement that comes from my emotional wave because I'm on the up? Is it an excitement because it comes from my open head and ajna, and I'm now all like conditioned because somebody else passed me by now on a bus and they were their head full of ideas, and now I'm like buzzing with these ideas and I didn't even know it was that person, right? And I'm thinking about it, I don't know. Or if you are a generator type, you have such a porous aura, you get excited. It's your natural state to be excitable because, this whole expansion, but that excitement is not necessarily a yes. You need to learn how that feels for your oscillating Yes, I have available energy. No, I don't have energy for this, and just like work through that physically. How does this feel in your body?
Mm.
One of the things that I really enjoyed learning, one of the things was the cognition, right? My cognition is taste, have this open taste. But what it means, and I'm also a splenic person. So there's two elements, right? What does it give me is a taste in my mouth, especially when something is wrong. I get metallic taste.
Mm.
It took some time for me to discover that this even exists as a thing, but that became such a big thing. So now my nose is not just like uneasy in my body, I feel it in my throat. So whatever your cognition is, I know currently a person with a smell cognition, I see this person smelling things when it's correct for them. The biggest things like, oh yes.
Mm.
And I see it. It's so interesting for me because I know their design.
Mhm.
Right? How, like touching, there's so many things. There are smaller variables in your design, but they actually can help you physically experience the correct or incorrect decisions. So then you don't have to be excited and mix this, like the excitement of your mind or just excitement of your aura, or your high of your emotional wave, or maybe being conditioned by somebody on a high wave if you were like me, completely open emotionally, right? What is happening? Or root center. I have an undefined root center, and my late husband had a defined root center. In his presence, I was so stressed because I would have to act now. I was even saying to him, you have to buy a t-shirt with the name now on it, with this logo now in big letters, because it annoys me because I can't take my pace with you. I have to do everything like I'm rushed, right? And this awareness. So it's not about learning every detail, but it is about watching it. So with waiting, let's just pivot it back to where we started. For example, with waiting, all these little details add to your experience of waiting, experience of what you need to initiate, which you can, where you can have that control. Because if it's about you, you can ask yourself, where am I here in control? Yes, there's something here that is out of my control. For example, if you want to enter relationships and you're a projector, trust me, wait until you're invited, because it's not going to end well if you initiate, right? You really want to. You probably agree that anticipation of the invitation, you're like, come on, invite me to the dinner now. You're like buzzing, but you can't, because it's incorrect. It has to come from the other side, right? But what can you do meanwhile? You can talk about your favorite food. You can talk about your favorite restaurants. You are making yourself available for this invitation to happen, right? You put all the cards on the table. All they have to do is say, I would like to invite you to do this, right? You're telling them how this needs to happen for you so you're in control of the situation. And that's what I find is a much more winning approach to waiting. So waiting, for example, as a generator type, the way I see it, and if you're out there, you're listening to this, you're very kind of experienced with your sacral responses generator, please agree or disagree with us. You have something that excited you. Something resonated. Something is, because you don't have just a sacral. Sometimes, you might have also a spleen defined. And the sacral is your authority, but the spleen also, this knowing is also there. I know a lot of people, a lot of generator types with defined spleen who are so intuitive. They just know, right? But you still have to get this yes. So you have to get this yes as a response. It doesn't actually take too long for you to see or hear something to confirm or deny, right? You can write it down. It's a cheat thing, I think, but you can write it down on a piece of paper, look at it and see how your body responds, right? You can present it to yourself, but usually you don't even have to do that if you really trust the universe to deliver something to respond to. The more you're aware about how your body opens up or contracts, the more you will see that you're constantly responding.
That
And
is,
that's beautiful, because then you're not waiting as in waiting. You're actually saying, okay, so what do I need to expose myself? I have this idea. What do I need to expose myself to in order to confirm or deny this idea of my body?
that's exactly my point. You're posing the question to the universe, and it's responding by your inner interpretation of that, whether it's a yes or whether it's a no. It's fantastic. And not only that is it fantastic, but there's a point where, as you said, there's loads of nuances around this, but we're operating 24/7. So what we're focusing on. So if you ask that question and then fill your head with it's not showing up, how am I going to do it? Is this really, the questions that shut you down? Your focus is somewhere else, not waiting, and not waiting for the guidance. You're full up with all the other doubts and confusions that humans do. But I have a brilliant example, if you don't mind me putting this in relation to the difference between waiting and being focused and participating. I think co-creating as opposed to waiting. So a couple of years ago, we were moving to Boston, and we had our house on the market for sale in Cleveland, and it wasn't selling. But what I had done was I had closed the door, everything was packed up, and I walked away, and I said, right, universe, sort that out. Now that's something that I learned. I thought, it'll be fine. It'll sort it out. I've set it up. It's great. So months later, the house wasn't selling, and I was there, oh my God, what's going on? So instead of making it wrong, I said, okay, I want this house sold. I'm stating what I want to happen. What needs to happen for me to do this? And I felt under pressure because I was just about to start a new course with people on manifesting. And I said, shit, I better do this myself. Like, this is a big demonstration. I better do this myself before I feel almost validated to actually be able to teach this, right? So that was fine. I said, okay, what needs to happen? And my guidance was go down there, clean up the garden, because the winter had happened. The snow was just thawing. So you could see the garden was messy from the October leaves. And, so we went there. I said, okay, we have to go to the house. We have to give it just a good clean up, and then it's going to go. And I gave the deadline of the 30th of March for this to happen. So we arrived to Cleveland Saturday morning. My son came up from Cincy. His friends gathered with him. They all went out and did the garden together. The doorbell rang the first time. It was my neighbours from across the road. Listen, hey, great to see you. We've got breakfast cooked for you to set you up for the day. Then an hour later, 2 sets of neighbours called in with overalls, everything set up. Okay, what can we do? Right? So the universe was coming to support me. So I literally just asked the question, got the guidance, took the action. And the next thing, I was there Tuesday. We worked our butts off for the weekend. We just cleaned, painted, did whatever. And I was doing my energetic stuff in the background, clearing the house, opening up the energy for the new owner. And that was fine. Tuesday, we went back to Boston. I was there to Larry in the airport. Okay, house is sold. I just know it. Now, what happened? I was in the projector, house is sold. He immediately started panicking. He's a manifesting generator. Well, we could, and started confusing what we wanted to happen. Well, we could always, we could always rent it. We could, do some other things with it. And himself and my brother were just chatting. And I was sitting there in my projector world going, we're actually really, really super we can actually really make this happen. The house is sold. That's it. I'm not even going to engage in that chatter, because it could easily have been the chatter that was going on in my own head, right? And Saturday evening, 29th of March, we got a call from the realtor. We have an offer in for your house. And I was there, oh, great. Okay, because we had got nothing up to then. And I was there, okay, great. And I was there, actually, it's not enough. Here's what we'll do. If they can offer us this much, the house is theirs. And it was another 20 or 30 grand over what they had offered. And the manifesting generator was all the energy of excitement soon turned into stinking thinking. And, so I was like, no, I'm staying balanced. I'm staying centered. I'm staying grounded. The house is sold. The house is sold. And then I was there to my angels. Listen, can it just be sold already? Because, I can only stay this calm for a certain period of time. And that was fine. 6 o'clock on the 30th of March. The realtor gave us a shout and a call, and he said, sorry for contacting you on a Sunday, but they've agreed to your terms. House is sold. It was like literally 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, the deal was done, the whole thing. So it was about, you can set your goal and run away from it, disconnect from it like I did. I just closed the door and walked away, or set your goal and stay present. That's what
Yes.
I think waiting is. Staying present to what needs to happen, what action you need to take, and discerning the whole way, like almost playing.
Exactly.
Almost,
There's still an element of trust, and there's still an
yeah,
element of, waiting for the conclusion of it, right? It has to be. You have to develop that trust, that you're trusting the process. But what meanwhile have you done? How did you move the energy? How did you center yourself? What thoughts are you sending it? Are they chaotic thoughts? Are they trust the journey thoughts? All these things. This is the act of active waiting
yeah,
for something to happen, whether we're talking about manifestation, whether we are going to use like a plain human design, go it from that angle, it doesn't even matter, because it's still the same idea, right? Into, if you, as a projector, you put the house on the market, you made it available, but that wasn't enough. You had to also do it up, right? You had to also clear it. You had to energetically invite someone in your mind, with your presence. Then the invitation to buy the house comes in.
exactly. And it was knowing my projector, my way of making a decision. I'm a total human design muggle. I'm a 5-1 projector with triple split and emotional authority, right? So I actually had to, and consciously kept my aura to myself with my MGs around the place. I went out and took a walk if I had to keep my energy clear, to keep the focus. Because as projectors, our ability to focus means we can manifest really quickly.
That's true, actually. It's true. When we're not all over the place, and
Yeah.
that happens when we don't focus on being present and being away, things are only slow. And, well, no, let me just not say that, because things can be slow because their timing needs a longer timeline where you have to trust this,
Yeah.
but sometimes the more you focus, the more you stay away and being present. So yes, for a projector, if you're a projector, being on your own, if anything, like of a big importance, it's really, really important as well for your manifestation process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I even find the manifesting generator gets the sacral yes very quickly. As a projector, I have an open sacral. So I need to make my decision independently.
Because because you're emotionally defined. Do you have a spleen defined?
I don't have spleen defined.
Because
Spleen,
with me, I'm a splenic. I also know in the moment. I literally know there and then.
absolutely. I agree with you. I have to step out and maybe go to a cafe or something and sit down and question myself.
Bridge the split, right? Because you're
Exactly, right?
triple
So
split. Yes, you need to people around you. You don't need to ask them, but they just need to be around you.
exactly. But what they're doing is providing the energy. They don't have an agenda to my decision. It
Yes,
doesn't matter to them what I do. So it can be neutral, which is really
exactly.
cool. I think Shatan Parkin gave me that tip initially. So now what we do is I'll pick up Larry's yes, because I know I can sense, as a projector, we can sense the sacral yes. And then he says, okay, off you go and make the decision and see if you come up with the same result.
That's
Because
it.
I have, in the relationship, I've kind of, it's not that I'm initiating things, but I'm the one with the 5-1. I do get the information together, I do the groundwork, I do the research, and then I would potentially give my husband something to respond to. Is that initiating? I don't know. Maybe there's a fine line here. This is what we're saying, right? There's a fine line that is very specific to you and knowing your process that allows you to set stuff up without.
That's exactly what I think I said this. You have to understand what this means to you. So, for example, for me, when I'm listening, and you're saying, well, I'm going to present something that for my husband to respond to. I don't think that this is initiation. This is being available. A projector needs to be available for invitations. If you're not available for invitations, if you're hiding, if you're, just sitting there waiting for something, your light is not on. Who can see that light? When you are available for invitations, two things happen. You yourself ground yourself. You yourself self-recognize that light. So that light goes massively on, because you can't otherwise turn it on. You have to see it. That happens when you are preparing for this, you're available for things.
That's
Then
brilliant.
the response of your husband, in a way, then he can invite you into the next step, or which is again, this is a dodgy area, because remember, invitations for major things, this is where it's really important. For smaller things, it's not. Interaction in life, it's not. Actually, projectors are great initiators. Projectors are great action takers that are correct actions for them, but it's knowing when you definitely need an invitation before you can initiate. You already was invited into this marriage. Initiate away. That's how I see it.
Exactly. So let's put the waiting back in the box of timing and into the natural process of manifesting, because it's both and, it's not either or. I had another great example during the year. At January 1st, I said, right, okay, COVID is over, all that stuff is over. I'm making a conscious decision to show up in my life, in everything. So I got onto my golf club. I said, okay, I'm going to play in the matches this year, or in the teams. So I just said, okay, I'm available for teams. A week later, I get a phone call. Hey, I see you're available for teams. Would you like to, when are you home? When can we put you on? And I was there. That's it. That's a simple. I stated I'm available for teams. It's a statement, not a do this or do that. Consider me, which is what marketing is all about, right? I'm available to help you do such and such. And then the people come and invite you.
I'm going to take this one level in, because recently, I am a widow, but life doesn't stop, right? The world keeps on spinning. So I went on Tinder. Not because I'm desperate for stuff, but I wanted to meet new people, because I live alone for the first time in my life, and it's lonely, So I wanted to meet people, and here's where I'm using Tinder as an example of marketing. It's not just about being available, so it's not just about me putting a pretty picture on. You have to be very strategic about how you present that statement of being available, right? So in my bio, I did say that I'm not interested in casual chatting. I'm not interested in casual sex. I am interested in a friend to share some time, coffee, meals, movies, maybe. I am looking for new friends and also some help around the house, because why otherwise you're making friends with a 47-year-old woman? I literally wrote that on my profile. I have not attracted, at least to people who went into any kind of conversations with me, not one single dodgy person. Because the way you present yourself, this is positioning. So in marketing, it's not just about, but I'm posting every day on Facebook. No, you have to be very clear about what you're posting, what is expectations, what are you available for. In marketing, it's slightly different also, because you are working for other people. So you're saying, I'm available for creating transformation, then describe this transformation, describe, what you can do for them. That's important. And over time, and it's not a black and white thing, it's 50,000 shades of gray, right? Like in everything in life. And you have to really, really understand this. But as long as you are thinking, and this is about waiting, but waiting actively. You are positioning yourself, you're taking inspired, but very strategic action. What do I bring to the table for this to happen? Whether it's an invitation, a response, or anything, what do I bring to the table? And I think this is why I wanted to kind of use this Tinder story, because it graphically describes how you make yourself available in order to attract what you want to attract.
That is a brilliant. That's my I want to be happy example. And the universe brings me a puppy. That's
yes.
Exactly,
that drives you nuts for the first 3 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the beauty of what you're saying is you develop your set of preferences over time. But with human design, knowing your decision strategy, knowing how you make decisions, you can define and refine these preferences over time. So you might have said, oh, I want a partner who's this, and then that person turns up and you're like, no, actually, I don't. I'll actually do this instead. You know what I'm saying?
As a 1-3, I will have to test all these partners before I even know. That's the truth. And you know what? It would drive me insane if I didn't know my human design, if I didn't understand that unless I actually go and experience this person, I will never know. And sometimes I need a few weeks and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of turmoil in order to actually nail one tiny detail that will be crucial. Then I say, this is mine, or you know what? No, thank you. It felt good, but And so you have to know, you were referring to your profile. That's where I think, especially in the profile, you can get those little, how do you experience life, you know? So that's another, but that's a conversation for another time, how we experience life based on our profiles and of course, but with the waiting, yes. I loved this conversation. I think we're going to wrap up because it's been a long talk. Waiting is not about inaction. Waiting is a very active process. It is about you raising your own awareness of what processes within your body and on the outside of you, but mostly inside of you, you're going through, finding the way to make the correct decisions. Human design gives you the roadmap, your authority, finding the experimenting how it feels in your body, so you can make aligned decisions. It is not black and white. And don't listen when people are saying to you, you have to wait, don't initiate. Don't just listen to that. Evaluate that statement based on every situations you're in. Sometimes it's a bigger, view. Sometimes it's a tiny little step, just, okay, at this step, can I initiate or not? Most of the time you will learn that you can, because you're actually making yourself available to anything good, whatever you're waiting for to come in and give you something beautiful, right?
And what we're really saying as well today is, so stop waiting for it to be perfect. Stop waiting for something outside to happen. Start waiting on yourself, serving yourself by being present too.
Exactly. Guys, we have all the links in the description to this series if you want to follow both of us, either of us, if you want more assistance in marketing or in setting up your preferences, setting up your prosperity and money flows, then we will see you on the other side. Just reach out to us. We do not bite and we do not hard sell anything, so you're safe to do so anytime you feel like. We will see you in another episode of Lighthouse Projector Series with Juliette Stapleton and Annita Keane.